Honestly, he's had so many surgeries. Okay. The phrenic nerve is a nerve that involves respiratory. Okay. And if you slice that, which is hard to do, the doctor.
Okay. After almost a year, we are finally getting a lot more information in the investigation into Hulk Hogan's death. What does newly released body cam and a comprehensive police report tell us about what happened to the wrestling icon and why his daughter says there are still a lot more questions? Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. We have a lot more details now into the death of wrestling icon Hulk Hogan. We have covered this before on Sidebar, but now we have videos, we have a 72-page police report, and most importantly, an official cause of death. And here's the thing, I'm going to read from the report, but I'm going to bring on a coroner to make sense of what all this means, to understand it. Now, if you recall, back on July 24th, 2025, Hulk Hogan, real name Terry Jean Balea, stopped breathing at his Clearwater, Florida home. His wife, Sky Daly Hogan, had called 911. She and an occupational therapist and a home health aide were all reportedly performing CPR on him until the first responders arrived, but he ultimately died. And there were questions. There were questions about his death. We've covered this here on Sidebar, whether his death was a result of medical malpractice resulting from a neck surgery, questions about him seemingly being in good spirits and health before his death, why he suddenly stopped breathing. Well, now we have a 72-page Clearwater PD case master report, 2 new videos, okay? This is giving us new insight. This is giving us new information. And I want to start with the videos. So we haven't seen this before. That occupational therapist, identified as Justin McCamey, leaves Hulk Hogan's house on the morning of July 24th, speaks to police, and I want you to listen very carefully to how he describes what he saw, but more importantly, about, and this is kind of quick at the end, how a doctor may have messed up.
Eyewitness. So when he went to the surgery a month or two ago, they severed the phrenic nerve. He went into a complete system shutdown. Came home for home health. I'm an occupational therapist, and he didn't look good. I saw him last week one time. That's like dead here. He was breathing. Imagine all the gas. So she did good. I was checking out the home health.
Do what?
Okay. He ate very little. A couple of blueberries on the spot. Was up throughout the night. Medication. Narcotics, and came back to him. I noticed
it is, yeah, it should be behind that feet.
No rise and fall of the chest. Tried to get pulse, tried to take blood pressure, nothing. She came in, we realized it together, immediately called 911. Got him to the floor, we started corrections. And that's basically he was breathing. In any case, when I saw it, I didn't, because it's such a big guy. Yeah. So getting a pulse, getting all that stuff is sometimes difficult. And then when we realized it, obviously we didn't call and get assistance. To be honest, I'm surprised he lasted this long.
You said you were only here like 10 minutes, right? Before he...
I got here about, I can tell you, I'm talking to you, 2:30, I was here at 9:30. I walked in the door.
And how long have you been helping take care of him?
Only my second visit.
Okay.
I just did the initial eval last week. Honestly, I was surprised when they had 2 weeks.
And are you trying to help him adjust to being in like a wheelchair mainly and stuff like that? Or?
Yeah, occupational, bad definition. PT does the legs. OT, we do the upper body.
Okay.
Function.
So just helping him function as best he can.
Right. I was trying to get him back because he was having trouble breathing.
Was he able to walk and stuff?
Barely. It was a pivot transfer.
But he's been using like urinal and stuff. What's the big issue right now?
Everything. Like we were...
Like why was he not able to walk?
He had that, they severed the phrenic nerve in surgery.
Was that recently? Okay. So he had a back surgery? Or what was it?
It was, honestly, he's had so many surgeries. Okay. The phrenic nerve is a nerve that involves respiratory.
Okay.
And if you slice that, which is hard to do, the doctor.
Okay. But so
that's off the record.
You caught that, right? Doctor screwed up. That's what led to speculation that Hogan's death was maybe caused by a botched surgery. And then later on, by the way, we have another video, months later, November 19, 2025, as he's in his car, this occupational therapist, an officer approaches him, again to get clarification on that, bit about the doctor, and it seems like he kind of tempers it a bit.
I was talking to the boss, he just wants one more question. In the video, you talked about how the phrenic nerve, when it gets severed, it's a hard thing to do.
I assume that, yeah.
Oh, you assume that?
It's not really my effort.
Okay, because basically, like, what we're trying to know is like how you knew that nerve. I'm sorry, I'm laying on your car.
Right.
That nerve is a common thing that can be injured during a surgery, and B, how did you arrive at that medical conclusion to say that it's hard to do?
No, that was separate.
Okay.
I assumed. I don't know.
But I mean, you're not a neurosurgeon.
Not at
right?
all.
Right.
Yeah, cardiac surgery. Yeah.
Didn't go to medical school. You have the degree for the occupational therapy and
That's it.
nothing beyond that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry to keep you.
It's okay. I was also blabbing because I was
I understand that.
so I have gotten in trouble before for talking to him. So.
Okay. Well, I think that should be it. All right. Thank you, sir.
It was interesting though. Listen to the interview of Bubba Losbomber the next couple of days after that.
Oh, I've heard it.
And the guy mentioned the phrenic nerve himself. He's
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh, it could have been," and I was like, "Huh."
I've heard it.
Yeah. So I shouldn't have said goodbye.
Okay. Well, fair enough.
This is why I'm not a doctor. I just get you stronger and get you moving.
Well, that's equally important. So. All right. Take care, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, real quick, for all you cat owners out there, who does not want their cat to be healthy and happy, right? And feeding them Smalls, that's the key. Why? Most cat food out there is made with cheap fillers and meat byproducts and artificial ingredients. And your cat's health at the end of the day is paying the price. That's the truth. Smalls is different. Their recipes are made with preservative-free, 100% human-grade ingredients that you'd find right in your fridge. Cats really rely on protein for energy. They also need a lot of hydration to stay healthy and toned. And luckily, Smalls contains at least 80% animal protein. Their fresh ingredients are gently cooked to retain all their nutrients, their hydration, their flavor. 88% of cat parents report that after feeding them Smalls, their cats have better digestion, shinier coats, more energy to play. Experts have also been raving about it. Forbes ranked Smalls the best overall cat food. BuzzFeed reviewers reported that their cats went ballistic for this stuff. So your cat's health starts with what they eat. Try Smalls, get 60% off your first order, plus free shipping and treats for life when you go to smalls.com/sidebar. So it seems that he says he assumed that he got it from the medical record, not a doctor, not a nurse. But in terms of what happened, according to law enforcement, now I want to go directly to the report. I'm going to read you verbatim. Quote, according to Mrs. Balea and Nicholas Balea, Mr. Balea had been suffering from numerous medical diagnoses to include leukemia, atrial fibrillation, pneumonia, and kidney failure. Additionally, Mr. Balea had undergone multiple hospitalizations over the course of the last several months for a myriad of conditions. A statement was obtained from Mrs. Balea and Nicholas Balea. Mrs. Balea reported that the occupational therapist and the home health aide had begun to set up for Mr. Balea's therapy session for the day. She advised Mr. Balea had been seated in his recliner in the living room of the residence and had eaten a small breakfast. As Mr. McCamey was taking vital signs, she noticed it appeared as though Mr. Balea's chest was no longer rising and falling, and she went to check on him. At this point, she and Mr. McCamey realized he did not have a pulse, and Mrs. Balea immediately called 911. 911 call recordings were obtained and corroborated the timelines and information provided by all parties involved, as well as the information provided by Mrs. Balea to the 911 call taker. Detectives conducted a visual inspection of Mr. Balea's body, which did not reveal any signs of trauma or injury. Morton Plant Hospital staff, following the death of Mr. Balea, contacted his family primary care physician, Dr. Gerald Fitzgerald, who advised he would sign Mr. Balea's death certificate. And with respect to what Hogan was reportedly going through, the report states, quote, Sergeant Beaver and I then asked about Mr. Balea's past medical history. Mrs. Balea advised he had undergone a spinal surgery on his neck approximately 6 weeks prior to this incident and referred to the operation as a fusion. Mrs. Balea stated in addition to the spinal surgery, Mr. Balea had an operation on his heart approximately 3 weeks ago to repair a valve. At the time of his cardiac surgery, she advised Mr. Balea was diagnosed with chronic lymphocytic leukemia as well. She continued to say her husband had been in the hospital for approximately 3 weeks following the surgery. Mrs. Balea stated following the diagnosis of leukemia, her husband had begun chemotherapy treatment approximately 1 week prior. I asked Mrs. Balea about any medications her husband was taking, and she stated he was on several different ones and was unable to provide the exact names. She explained the officers who had responded to her house had asked about the medications and were later provided the same. Please refer to additional supplements for details surrounding the specific medications Mr. Balea was prescribed and later collected. I asked Mrs. Balea how her husband was behaving earlier in the morning prior to the medical incident. She stated it was a normal morning and that he had eaten a breakfast of yogurt and berries approximately 15 minutes prior to the arrival of the occupational therapist. I later spoke individually with Christopher Volo, who works with Mr. Balea as a manager. Mr. Volo stated Mr. Balea had been placed on dialysis approximately 1 to 2 weeks prior to this incident and from his recollection appeared to be doing better while undergoing dialysis. Mr. Volo then stated he had been diagnosed with kidney failure as well. Mr. Volo continued to say that on this date, July 24th, 2025, Mr. Balea had another dialysis appointment scheduled for later in the day. After speaking with Mrs. Balea and Mr. Volo, I returned to ER Room 1 where Mr. Balea was being treated. A short time later, Dr. Erica Francis pronounced Mr. Balea deceased at 11:17 hours. Sergeant Beaver and I then entered the room and conducted a visual inspection of Mr. Balea's body. The body was laying supine to the hospital bed of room 1. There was an intraosseous catheter in his right shin bone. There was an intravenous catheter in his right arm. Previously, while medical personnel were providing life-saving measures to Mr. Balea, I noticed they were utilizing an automated mechanical chest compression device. There were no signs of trauma to the body except for redness and apparent abrasion from where the compression device had been placed on his sternum. I also noted Mr. Balea appeared to have swelling in his ankles and lower portions of his legs. Sergeant Beaver took 8 photographs of Mr. Balea with his department-issued cellular phone. Sergeant Beaver and I then uploaded the photographs to axonevidence.com and their access was restricted. After the photographs were uploaded to evidence.com, I witnessed Sergeant Beaver delete the photographs from his department-issued cell phone. And I wonder if that's so, nothing's leaked of Hulk Hogan because he's a celebrity. I do wonder that. Now, in terms of Hogan's death, the report states, quote, the private autopsy was completed on August 16, 2025 at 11:55 hours by Dr. Daniel L. Schultz, MD, pathologist. An excerpt from Dr. Schultz's abbreviated summation reads, Mr. Terry Balea died exclusively from compelling natural disease with no reasonable traumatic or terminal toxologic contributions. As such, the manner of death is also natural. The abbreviated summation continues, Mr. Balea's circumstances of death and health history do not align with any jurisdictional type of case per Florida code. His death was natural at the face. Based further on the benefits of a complete autopsy, the natural passing of Mr. Terry Balea has been validated and suspicions of trauma, terminal toxins have been reasonably excluded. There's another part that says, on July 25th, 2025, at approximately 900 hours, I contacted the Pinellas County Medical Examiner's Office and spoke with MEO investigator Jim Baining to advise on the above discrepancy in the medication. While speaking with Baining, I was informed that the Medical Examiner's Office was aware of the recent surgery on Mr. Balea's neck where it was alleged that the phrenic nerve had been damaged. So they were aware of this. At the end of the report, it says, quote, Dr. Fitzgerald stated he was advised by Dr. Francis that Mr. Balea had come into the emergency department in a systole, and after approximately 45 minutes, life-saving measures resulting in no cardiac rhythm changes, she pronounced Mr. Balea deceased and asked if Dr. Fitzgerald would be willing to sign the death certificate. Dr. Fitzgerald stated that based on what he was told by Dr. Francis, he believed the cause of death was cardiac in nature and agreed to sign the the certificate. Officers later collected the medications currently prescribed to Mr. Balea and conducted a pill inventory, which indicated Mr. Balea was taking fewer medications than he was prescribed. The Clearwater Police Department enlisted the assistance of the DEA to ascertain if there were any prescribing anomalies in relation to any opiates. The DEA verified that there were no anomalous prescriptions of any opiates to Mr. Balea by Mr. Fitzgerald or any other prescribers within the past 6 months. While conducting the pill inventory, detectives discovered that Mr. Balea was taking a lower dose of the prescribed opiates, inconsistent with an individual suffering from a current addiction. Additionally, none of the medications collected by the Clearwater Police Department had been prescribed by Dr. Fitzgerald due to the allegations made by Mr. McCamey indicating the possibility of an injury to Mr. Balea being a potential proximal cause of death. Several subpoena requests were completed requesting Mr. Balea's medical records from several medical providers with consent provided by his next of kin, Mrs. Balea. The subpoenas were ultimately served by the State Attorney's Office for the 6th Judicial Circuit to Morton Plant Hospital, Tampa General Hospital, Visiting Nurses Association, and Good Samaritan Hospital. Over the course of several months, the results were received from all entities. A review of the medical records yielded several medical diagnoses and multiple extended hospitalizations and declining health over the few months preceding Mr. Balea's death, consistent with the interviews provided by Mrs. Balea and Nicholas Balea. On August 27, 2025, Mrs. Balea and Nicholas Balea allowed Detective Bieber to review home surveillance footage from the morning of July 24, 2025. The camera view captured the living room of the residence where Mr. Balea was located at the time he went into cardiac arrest by responding officers and medical personnel. The recording was viewed in person in the residence, and it corroborated the statements previously made by Mrs. Balea, Ms. Swinton, and Mr. McCamey regarding the series of events immediately preceding and after Mr. Balea went into cardiac arrest. The footage was not collected and remained in the family's possession. Detectives conducted interviews with all responding emergency medical services providers. Interviewed EMS personnel also did not report seeing any signs of trauma or injury to Mr. Balea's body. It was later learned that Mrs. Balea and Nicholas Balea had arranged for a private autopsy to be completed on Mr. Balea. The Clearwater Police Department received an abbreviated summation of the autopsy report from Dr. Daniel Schultz, the pathologist who conducted the autopsy. In his summation, Dr. Schultz writes that he performed the autopsy on August 16th, 2025 at 11:55 hours. Dr. Schultz writes that Mr. Balea died, quote, exclusively from compelling natural disease with no reasonable traumatic or terminal toxicologic contributions. As such, the manner of death is also natural. Following an exhaustive review of the statements, medical records, surveillance footage from within the residence, and a visual inspection of Mr. Balea's body, there has been no evidence to indicate the death of Terry Balea was anything other than natural. Through the course of the investigation, there has been no evidence to indicate any criminal wrongdoing related to his death. This case will be closed and will be considered solved non-criminal. Okay. And that is supported by law enforcement throughout this report. Like, for example, you have this notation from a detective from the Robbery Homicide Division. It says, quote, in my review of the records, I did not observe anything inconsistent with natural death. Now, before I bring on our coroner to make sense of this, I want to briefly talk about Brooke Hogan, Hulk Hogan's reportedly estranged daughter. Apparently, they didn't speak in quite some time. Apparently, she wasn't in his will. The report states, on Thursday, August 7, 2025, at approximately 14:31 hours, Terry Balea's daughter, Brooke Balea, contacted me in reference to information on her father, specifically whether an autopsy would be performed. I explained that the decision on whether an autopsy should be performed is the responsibility of the medical examiner. Ms. Balea went on to say that she was concerned with her father's recent medical history, advising that she was told recently that medical personnel may have botched his recent surgery. I explained that we heard the same unconfirmed allegation, but that we would look into it. Ms. Balea also brought up her concerns of cremation in relation to an outside private autopsy. I explained that those decisions were up to the legal next of kin and suggested she discuss this with Sky. Ms. Balea thanked me for taking her call and assisting her as much as I could. Prior to ending the call, Ms. Balea inquired about any and all lab work available related to her father's death. I advised I would send over the phone numbers to Morton Plant Hospital Legal Division in reference to this. I offered my condolences to the loss of her father and ended the call. At approximately 15:50 hours, I provided Ms. Balea with the following Morton Plant Hospital Corporate Legal Department phone numbers to include their legal aid department. There's another part that says, on Tuesday, August 21st, 2025, at approximately 14:16 hours, contact was made with Ms. Balea to inquire if she would be able to meet in person at the Clearwater Police Department for the purpose of discussing the status of the investigation and to clarify some of the speculation circulating in the public. Ms. Balea advised that she would be unavailable until November due to previously scheduled obligations. I explained that we believed it would be appropriate to share case facts with her. She acknowledged this but reiterated that she was unable to meet. At approximately 16:01 hours, Ms. Balea contacted me back, stating she thought about the option of coming to speak with investigators, referenced the report's audio and body-worn camera, BWC footage, prior to the close of the case and prior to the public and media obtaining this information. She stated she was trying to work out something for the following week. She did have some follow-up questions on the medical examiner's office decision not to autopsy, questions on how death investigations work on the law enforcement side, as well as additional questions on viewing her father. She also stated she was concerned about the private autopsy, to which she indicated she was not convinced it would be or has been done correctly. I reiterated to Ms. Balea that this process was completely outside the scope of our investigation and entirely up to the legal next of kin. Now, I should tell you that the Clearwater Police Department praised Hulk Hogan's family, including Sky, his kids, Nick and Brooke, the attorney, Kevin Hazlett, for their, quote, willingness to allow our investigators access to very personal information at a time when they were grieving and struggling. They added that it was, quote, extremely helpful. Here's the thing. Brooke has spoken out after all this, spoken out after the Clearwater PD released this report. In a clip that was shared on social media, she reportedly said, I think my fans and I think people know me well enough to know that I have integrity. I try to keep my mouth shut. I've tried to stay out of this stuff, but dear Clearwater Police, keep my effing name out of your mouth. You have not treated me like family. You have not helped me. You have not been in touch with me like you should have been. Maybe I lost my privileges because I didn't attend a funeral my dad didn't want. Maybe I didn't want to see my dad paraded around like a show pony with makeup on, smelling like formaldehyde. Sorry, that's not what my dad wanted. Sorry that I didn't want to deal with all the shady people around him. I guess that makes me not his daughter anymore, right? I guess that makes me not equal to Nick. I guess that makes me not able to get any answers. And Brooke reportedly shared a separate clip on X saying the following: I was the one that asked for the autopsy. I offered to pay for it, but instead they're going to babyface. Oh, no, we'll do it. Okay, then why didn't you list autopsy on his final death certificate? That's my first thing. Unless that autopsy contains something that doesn't align with your narrative, because I've asked for it publicly. Nobody is trying to give it to me. Nobody is trying to be like, Brooke, shut up, here it is. If anything, don't say anything that's on it because there's something damning on there that's embarrassing for Dad. Nobody is saying anything like that. And she said that a private autopsy was conducted, that she wasn't allowed to see the results. She questioned certain things, why Sky, in her reading of the report, why she was the only one who noticed her father wasn't breathing when there were two other medical professionals there, why, according to her, no blood samples were available, but apparently nothing suspicious was found in her father's blood. She also highlighted what she believes were inconsistencies, again, in her view, between toxicology findings and medications that her father may have been taking. And according to TMZ, Brooke also said, quote, there's been a lot of inconsistencies from the beginning. I think CWPD missed the mark by not immediately making this a big investigation and not questioning everything and everybody out the gate. This should have been treated as a taped off, lockdown, thorough investigation from day one. All right, I want to bring on Dr. Naida Rutherford, Richland County Coroner. Haven't seen her in quite some time, but always happy to see Naida. Thank you so much for taking the time. Generally speaking, anything strike you as odd about this report?
I think when people are celebrities, they are scrutinized in their personal lives in a way that is so invasive. And for me, this report, the 72 pages that I combed through, just seemed a bit excessive to me for a natural death that occurred in a home of a patient who had chronic illness. This was a natural death, like everyone concluded that the family chose to have a private autopsy. We can dig into that a little bit in terms of why they did that, but nothing about this case from the original 911 call to the police report when they went out, nothing about it was super odd to me. But they went through the investigation and did their job, and so I guess the family can rest easy with that.
Listen, you're the professional. I'm just reading this, and it's clear they say multiple times this is a natural death. How do they know it's a natural death? Like, I'm looking at it, and I'm trying to understand. So, what does that mean that it's a natural death? How exactly did Hulk Hogan die?
So, one, let's just walk our audience through what manner of death actually means. So, cause of death is the medical reason that someone's heart and lungs stop working. The manner of death is how that happens. You only have five to choose from, and I like to teach people this acronym NASH-U. You have natural, accidental, suicide, homicide, and undetermined. There are only five manners of death that you can choose from. So, when we look at the context of this case, here's a person who had chronic health conditions. He had kidney failure, he had leukemia, he had atrial fibrillation, he had all of these things that could have caused his death at any given point in time. The AFib alone being this unnatural and an off heartbeat that he had could have killed him at any point. He could have been just sitting down watching TV and his heart could have skipped enough beats that it could have killed him. So he had chronic health conditions that could have killed him at any moment. Again, when we look at the body, we look at the health history. One of the things that we say is, what happened here that could have possibly caused his death? Outside of with the absence of trauma, no injury, no recent falls. When we talk about leukemia and the fact that he could have the potential to bleed very easily, a slight fall could have caused him to have a subdural, hematoma or a subdural hemorrhage that could have caused his death. But he didn't have any of those things. So I'm not sure why they did so much of an investigation. But I also understand that the family may have wanted some more answers, and certainly looking at the toxicology can give us that. And we can talk a little bit about that if you want.
Let's talk about that next, because first of all, I think they had to release this, and I think that they had to do a thorough investigation, which I hope they do in every case, but there was a lot of speculation regarding Hulk Hogan. There was a lot of speculation as to his death. What about the toxicology? What'd you take from that?
So the toxicology just showed that he was actually not even taking the opioid medications that were prescribed to him in any manner that would have been indicative of addiction. And so when we look at prescriptions, we look at who prescribed them, how often they prescribe them. We can actually run something called a scripts report and actually receive information that is sent to the DEA about prescribers and their habits and their trends in prescribing opioid medications. And so none of those things were out of alignment based on the 72 pages that I read. He was actually undertaking his medication in a way that said he was only using it as needed, PRN. He wasn't taking it as prescribed. Again, he was underdosing himself, which lets me know that he was probably getting closer to death. The closer to death that you get, sometimes you have a decreased need for those pain medicines, and he just wasn't utilizing it. I understand that when people have a history of drug use in their past, people think that they fall off the wagon and that maybe they're using again, or maybe there's some issue there. But we can't hold someone's past against them. We can use history to inform our investigation, but we shouldn't go in just automatically thinking that this is what's going to be the case. And his toxicology didn't reveal anything that was nefarious. It didn't show any poisons or any substances that would have contributed to his death.
What about this whole phrenic nerve conversation? I played the clip earlier about the occupational therapist. The report, and from what I said, it looks like the ME knew about the phrenic nerve situation. But as far as I'm seeing, and you tell me, and I saw you kind of look the other way, it doesn't seem that this phrenic nerve contributed to his death in any way, right?
It didn't. And again, this is like a whole
Even
lot
though
of
it controls breathing, right? It controls breathing.
Yes, but he also had so many other health conditions. Let's just take the kidney failure, for example.
Okay.
You have a decreased function of the kidneys. They are not filtering toxins the way that they normally would. So you're building up these toxins in your system. You cannot filter them out no matter how hard your body tries, unless you put someone on dialysis. He had leukemia, which also contributes to weakness, tiredness, just an overall rundown body. It makes them more susceptible to infections. He had AFib. His heart did not beat appropriately. He had to take medications to try to keep his heart in rhythm. All of these things can cause problems. And so when you have kidney failure and the more progressive kidney failure you have, guess what else you get? You get a backup of fluid in the body that can lead to pulmonary edema, that can lead to increased respiratory distress, that can cause you to stop breathing properly. And you may not breathe enough times per minute to sustain life. So, yes, I understand this phrenic nerve injury, and people wanted to take a look at that. And again, I think it was smart and prudent of the family to have the independent autopsy done, because the medical examiner didn't see a point in doing an autopsy, which should let you know no one thought that there was anything criminal happening here. But they did do a toxicology to determine if there were any medication substances that could have contributed to his death or impaired his breathing, which I think is really important. And there was nothing there. So, again, phrenic nerve injury, sure, but not the cause of death here.
Just to be clear, you talked about the various complications and the various issues and potential complications. Do we know, they don't know precisely at that moment in time how this happened, right? Unless I'm wrong.
Well, let me just give you guys a little bit of education about what a death certificate actually says. It is the medical opinion of how someone died. It doesn't have to be an exact cause. We certify deaths all the time without doing an autopsy. Doctors certify natural deaths based on someone's medical history. And so you can die in your home, an unwitnessed death. Your primary care doctor has seen you within the last 3 months. You have congestive heart failure or kidney failure, and they can put a cause of death on your death certificate that says complications of kidney failure or complications of atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, heart disease, congestive heart failure, whatever it is. There doesn't have to be an autopsy. There also does not have to be a toxicology. The medical examiner did not see a point in doing any of those things. The family chose to have a private autopsy, and the cause of death was still ruled as natural, which is what the medical examiner stated in his medical opinion to be the case. He did an external examination of this body to look for signs of injury, to look for signs of trauma. There were none. They looked at the toxicology report, and again, there was nothing there to indicate that he had anything in his system that contributed to his death. So, the exact cause, cardiac arrest is not a suitable cause of death to put in a death certificate, but his heart and lungs stopped working due to natural disease. He certainly had three major things that could have contributed to that.
And the private autopsy, what do you take away from that?
It just confirms maybe what the family needed to know for closure. It says that the toxicology was not a contributing factor to his death, that this was a death of natural disease based on his past medical history. Again, kidney failure causes so many complications in the body, the leukemia, pneumonia. Leukemia makes your body more susceptible to infection. He had been hospitalized multiple times over the past few months for multiple diagnoses. He had health problems. He was chronically ill. We want our heroes to live forever, but death is inevitable and it's random. And when you have this type of health history, it can happen at any moment.
Doctor, before I let you go, I mentioned it before. Brooke Hogan has a lot of questions, even after this report came out. Questions about the blood, questions about toxicology, questions about the investigation. I know you've seen some of her comments that she's made. Any thoughts on that?
I think Brooke Hogan is grieving. And I think that when you're grieving, you're reaching for any sort of answer. You're reaching for blame. We want our family members to live forever, and it's just not going to happen. And again, with this extensive health history, he was prone and more at risk for death than someone who was of healthy heart and kidneys. He just was not a healthy
Right.
person. He was chronically ill. And I think that Brooke, in all of her questioning of the police, when I read this 72-page report, I don't know these officers. I don't have a relationship with the medical examiner in Florida to speak on their behalf. They don't know me. I'm telling you, this was a thorough investigation, in my opinion, from their summary to the detailed witness statements. I don't see anything that was overlooked in this case.
No inconsistencies, in your opinion.
No, none. Because again, this was pulled together as a natural death from the beginning. Now, the fact that they went further and looked at witness statements and said, okay, well, let's view the video footage. If they would have seen anything on that video footage that was even remotely suspicious, they would have taken custody of that video. They would have re-interviewed witnesses. They would have made arrests if they felt like someone was neglecting him, which is what it seems to be Brooke is indicating. There were two medical professionals in the home, but they were also performing other care for him, getting other things ready. There's no reason for someone to be sitting on him 24/7, staring at him as he's sitting there watching television and eating his breakfast. I don't see any implication of malpractice or wrongdoing in this case. I think Brooke is grieving.
Doctor, thank you so much for clarifying this. I read it, I try to make sense of it, our viewers try to make sense of it, but we're very lucky to have you. Dr. Naida Rutherford, thank you so much. Good seeing you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right, that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also check us out on NBC's Peacock if you want to follow me, X, Instagram, my News Nation show, Jesse Weber Live, Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. Eastern. I'll see you next time, everybody.